Hi, welcome to the Move and Muse podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, physical therapist and founder of Moveology Physical Therapy and Wellness. I invite you to pull up a chair, sip on your favorite drink, and join me in real conversations around movement, health, business, and loving life. Hi, welcome back to the Move and Muse podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, physical therapist and founder of Moveology Physical Therapy and Wellness. Today, we're going to be talking about how movement can become medicine and why it's never too late to start over. You know, I think many women assume that strength training is all about aesthetics and losing weight. But what if it was more about rebuilding your confidence? Today's guest has lived through some life transitions, reinvented herself, and found strength not just physically, but mentally. She is a personal trainer and a life coach, helping women answer the question, what do I truly want from my life? So please welcome to the podcast, Tina. It is so great to have you on, Tina.
Thank you for having me on, Kristen. This is really great what you're doing for our community. I believe in it wholeheartedly, so I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell my listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into personal training and coaching.
Yeah, so I'll try to make my long story short as I can. So I'm about to turn 54 and I started my journey decades ago. So I've been in the industry since I took a move out to California. Just when my oldest, he's 25, is 3 years old. And I'd put on some weight, the mommy, pounds and all these things. And we were moving around quite a bit, with my ex-husband now, jobs all the time. And again, so every time, and you touched on that already, like recreating it was something that I had to do quite often. I was, in college, I was, my degrees in sociology. I started in healthcare, in mental health and wellness. And then I went into retail management for so many years, again, start the family process and moving around. So when I moved to California, there was a beautiful new fitness club that opened up there. And so I thought, great, this is an opportunity for me to meet people, to get myself in shape. Because I've always valued it. I was in track and swimming, when I was growing up in high school way back. And I thought, I can bring my son there too, because, the big gyms have the daycares. So I started going there, met some people. It was great. Other moms that had young kids, and there was a training. And I thought, I could do this. I wasn't working at the time. I always have had a job, no matter through all those transitions. And I thought, this is something new I can do. It makes me feel good. I can take my son with me, can go to the daycare. And so that's really where I started my journey way back then. And that was in 2004, 2005.
Yeah. Awesome. So kind of fitness had always been a part of your life. And then just with transitions, trying to figure out where fitness could fit into your life, basically.
Well, yes and no, because,
Okay.
I was, again, an athlete in high school. I soon discovered beer in college and things like that. Right. So I really didn't work out or do anything, those years.
Yeah.
I've always been physically active, but I didn't really do the gym thing. Like it was something I dabbled in every once in a while. Did have a sister that was in the industry. So it was something she was doing. And again, I thought this is something that can translate to, what I can do, my skill set. And so the first thing I got a certification was the kickboxing. And then I soon got back in the pool and I did aquatics, and I did that. I got pregnant again, so I was through my second pregnancy. So that's where I really started what I did. And then we had moved there back to the Midwest. That's where I'm originally from. And that's where my career kind of took off. So I was able to take my kids with me. Every certification that came up, I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So I've been certified in more things than anybody probably needs. But, trying to find my niche, like what really, where did, my talents come out? Where could I help more people? So I did a lot of things from again, aquatic fitness, strength training, yoga, you name it. Like, again, I've done it. And I really, really developed my craft during those 8 years that I was long years in Wisconsin. And then, so it was really, really, really great career that I could still be a mom, right? I could take my kids with me and be the working stay at home mom. So that was really what got me into it, really showing my kids, what it was nice to, what it was like to be in a healthy lifestyle, right? Because they were learning from me. I was taking them to the gym, and that, again, I wanted to make sure that was a part of their life. It was always something my kiddos, I said, I don't care what you do. You can do baseball, soccer, football, whatever, but you have to do something. You have to move your body at some point, because we know they're just not doing that in schools and things anymore. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of women that have been through the exact path that you described, that they've, had this high school or college like athletics and skills, and then life and family and everything kind of starts to come in, and you take a little bit of a back burner, but know that you still need to kind of prioritize yourself and just trying to figure out, how to make that happen, and how to build your family around that, so that they're taken care of, but that you are, kind of as well. You talk about reinventing yourself a lot. What was kind of the hardest part of either going through those different phases, or one phase that kind of stood out to you, or anything like that?
Yeah, and again, we did move around a lot, and I kind of found myself settling into this career. And then we got the opportunity to move down here to Texas in 2015. And at that point, I thought, do I really want to keep doing this? This is something, now I have to build a reputation and clientele and all the kind of things. So I took a really small step back, and I went back into retail management. I thought, oh no, this is not for me. And I really wanted to, again, I really believe in health and wellness. And I know that that is something that is just so important to our everyday life. So I dove back into it here in Texas. That's how I met you. I
Yes.
actually met you through a DFW surf, is paddleboard, wake surfing. And so from getting out of the gym into recreation. So again, this is something new, a challenge. I love being outdoors. I was trying to find community. And so I found this, and I was asked to be a coach just a few months after becoming a member. So they knew that, I was in the industry. I took over for Kone, who was the original women's coach there, and really grew the business from there. There were some amazing years of just growth and community. And again, just moving from being in the gym, what people typically think, as an aerobics instructor or whatever, the old terms were, to a recreation coach and a lifestyle coach. And so I did that for 10 years. I actually officially retired last year from that. But then COVID happened, right? So
Mm-hmm.
gym shut down. What are we going to do? I had a client that came out to the lake. I had trained her before, and she asked me to run operations for her business. And so I thought, again, hey, I'm going to take a step away from this fitness industry. It's just not really serving me right now. I still kept recreation in my life. And I did that for a couple of years, but really just 1 year into it, I was sitting at the desk doing desk work, right? And I was like, I don't feel like I have a purpose. What am I doing? Like, I can do this operations management all day long, but there's no purpose behind it. So, and I started looking, and I found this health and life coaching certification program. Something where I could get a dual certification, because again, to me as a life coach, it starts with being healthy in your body. We can work on all the things, relationships, our relationship with money, work, all these kinds of things. But if our body's suffering, if we don't start there, we're not going to be able to come to our full potential. So that's what really drove me into that. And then eventually back into the fitness industry.
Okay. That's nice. So within that whole aspect, you got back into doing more kind of strength training and personal training along with the life coaching. You were combining a little bit of the two of them?
Yes. So again, I had the recreation, and then I went back into big box gym, and then I also offered that to my one-on-one clients. So as the health and life coach, I would do a 12-week, I do a 12-week program. And it usually, again, starts with some foundational work around how they're moving their body daily, right? And then we dive deeper into other areas in their life that they want to work on. And I also have a corporate version. I got a certification in this program called the Clarity Catalyst. It came from a program in from Stanford University in a master's degree program. It was developed as a way to help master degree business really excel in their program. So that was offered to me at the end of my health and life coaching cert. It was like kind of a bonus program. And I loved it. Again, I'm a class person. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach at heart. And so I thought, okay, this is a course I can teach in another way to help people manage their work-life balance. Because really that's what it comes down to. And, we're so upside down most of the time. I always have this like kind of visual, right? When I talk to people, and this is where we are, we're balancing in life, but so many times we're like this, right? And then all of a sudden we're like there. So we kind of do these big pivots instead of trying to kind of, okay, sometimes we're up in life and work and trying to find that so that we can thrive and live our life, more quality of life with less tension, stress, and anxiety, because that's really, why the tools that we teach around it.
How would you say, like, as far as like with the movement and strength training, how do you find that it fits in with kind of that life work balance, building the confidence, that sort of a thing?
Yeah. So again, I feel like when people come into a physical space to work out, right? That's like a small piece of the puzzle. So when they come in and they start moving their bodies and they start taking time to get into their body, right? And making sacred, I call it a sacred appointment, right? We make appointments for our doctors, right? We keep those appointments, or our people at work and all those. But a lot of times those appointments for ourselves, we're like, okay, I'm too busy, I gotta stay at work, I do this. And something, again, not only to my current clients, but anyone, that these appointments need to be sacred. We have only so many hours in our day, and we owe it to ourselves to be able to carve out an hour for ourselves a day, to be able to move our bodies, whether it's at the gym or just walking or doing something where we're being mindful and really unplugging for everything else. So that right there is kind of the foundation of where I like to start anyone is. And again, if they only can do 1, 2, 3 hours a week, that's where we start, right? And then we start to work on that being a daily practice.
That is exactly what I teach my patients, because they start with their physical therapy appointments and they already have them scheduled. So they're showing up, they're finding the time to make it happen. But then there's that transition of like, I'm leaving and I'm not doing physical therapy. I need to continue to do this movement or do something for my body. But now I don't have the time. But you had the time, before. And so I think it's really prioritizing. I'm big on taking and blocking your calendar and just making it an appointment that you would stick to for someone else, that you just stick to it for yourself. So I think that is a huge key. And I would like to see like more women do that. I mean, I think it's important. And for some reason, it just, like I said, just doesn't become a priority for some reason, after.
Yeah, it just, for some reason, we prioritize everybody and everything else. And at the end of the day, the thing is, if we don't prioritize ourselves, then we can't show up for our kids and our spouses and our bosses. It just
Exactly.
can't happen. And, I actually touched on this morning. I had a meeting, and I talked about a lot about how we can always make more money, but we can't get more time. And
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of thought deeper on it, and so I ended up writing this blog on my way to this meeting. And really what my thought was, but you're trading, right? So if I invest money into my life and through my health, my wellness, I'm actually going to buy more time. I'm going to buy more time for my longevity because I've invested in my life, and I'll be able to then make more money, right? Have more time to do things.
Yeah.
And it's really this mindset switch, right? That if I invest in myself at a certain stage and age, I can have a longer life that is fuller, that's richer in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think a lot of women kind of in midlife are at that point of trying to figure out how to balance, how to bring that back into their life. Um, and I think, often we think it has to be like this big change. Does it have to be like big changes? Can it be a lot of small decisions? What would you kind of recommend to a woman who's kind of standing at the beginning of trying to figure out like those next changes and putting herself first again?
Yeah, my and life coaching, they have a saying called small hinges swing big doors.
Yes.
And honestly, it starts with the small changes. And I always say like it, and you can go back to just fundamentals. If I recommend to a client, hey, this is the amount of if I was Kristen, you're supposed to have 100 grams of protein, 1,500 calories a day, 80 ounces of water, and you're not even getting close to that. Don't try to do that overnight. Your body's gonna be like, what happened? So again, those small incremental steps of change and understanding that change isn't linear, right? Like we're not just always, it could go here, progress, all those kinds of things, but small daily steps. I mean, there was a big famous book I'm sure you're aware of, is Atomic Habits, right? In stacking one habit on top of the other, things that we already do, like we get up in the morning, one of the things that we do, we go to the bathroom, we brush our teeth, and then we just start pairing little things with that over time, and it just starts becoming part of who we are, and we don't even have to make a conscious decision anymore. It's just part of what we have to do, right, every day.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's very key. I'm big right now on there's so many trends and so many influencers on social media. I did a podcast on this and just the whole aspect of there's so many influencers telling you what to do, and it can become overwhelming to try to follow all of the different nutrition and hydration and sleep and movement and these big extreme, like programs for strength training and that sort of a thing, that I think it just becomes overwhelming, and that it's like, if I can't do all of it, I'm going to do nothing, instead of just taking, like, I can't get to 100 grams of protein. I don't know how to do that anymore. Like, do I need that much? It's just a lot. And so I think, like what you said, having someone to help you be accountable, to walk along, to kind of try to break that up into like manageable pieces, because if it's not going to fit into your daily life, then it's not going to stick or become a habit, something that you can stick
Yeah,
with. But yeah.
absolutely. And again, people, it shouldn't be all or nothing. I even talk to my clients, it's, how many people are like, all right, we're just drinking on the weekends. And then something happens and it's Taco Tuesday and they're like, oh, let's go ahead and have a margarita. Well, just because you have that margarita on Tuesday doesn't mean the rest of the week is blown. But I will guarantee you that almost every person that if you interviewed and you asked them, hey, do you just work out? Okay, yeah, but I had that too. And then they're just going to say, now the rest of the week they've made an excuse. And I'm like, it really shouldn't be all or nothing. It's really the 80-20 lifestyle is kind of, best, where you 80% of the time, you're doing all the right things, and 20%, maybe we're not. Again, we're always looking for progress, not perfection. And in doing things in smaller incremental bites is going to make you much more successful. And you can even, like the analogy of weight loss, right? Say you want to lose 100 pounds. Well, you lose it overnight, your body's going to go, whoa, what happened again? And it's going to put it right back on. So the slower things change, the longer it's going to stick. And I know it can be really frustrating in the world that we live in, the Insta world, right? That we
Yep.
can push the button, take a pill, take a shot now.
Mm-hmm.
But taking it slower is going to be much more sustainable. And again, for me, it's always been about sustainability. Yeah, we all want to look good, but I want to move well. I want to feel good in my body. And we find that more and more people, when they get to a certain age, right, that they're looking for that functionality, which has really brought me to where I am today, which I didn't know that I was going to continue to be in this business, because and then opportunity comes. It's like I think over time, it's just putting me in the right spot at the right time, knowing that this is the next step, so that I can really, really help other people in the area to live healthier lives, because it's so, so needed.
Yeah, that's what I kind of want to go into. I want to go into a little bit about your personal training knowledge. And so I think there's an aspect of women that are intimidated walking into gyms, not knowing kind of where to start. If strength training is for them, I've got a lot of myths that we'll kind of go through in a little bit, but if someone is feeling intimidated walking into a gym, like where should they begin?
Well, first and foremost, strength training is for absolutely every single person that is walking on this earth.
Yes.
Every single person.
Yep.
Whether it's, occupational therapy because of different reasons, but yes, everybody needs it. We need to have that resistance training to be able to support our skeletal system, our metabolism, everything, our muscle and all that. But as far as where people start, it kind of depends on the person. If they were going into a big box gym and they're comfortable going into classes and they can work independently, that might be an appropriate place for them. A lot of people aren't if they don't have that background. And again, this has led me to where I am today. I'm with Alloy Personal Training. So what I love about it is it's personal training, but it's different than regular personal training. That's something actually I've never really enjoyed as much. I've always loved big groups. I love people building community and everyone together because we feed off it. There's energies. We encourage each other rather than just a one-on-one fitness coach. So what we do is we do that specialized personal training. So it's always functional. It's always full body. And we do it in a small group setting. We believe that creating that community is really, really important, but the small group is limited to 6 people. They did tons and tons of research on this, found out that was the perfect amount of people where we could still work with everybody as individuals and also have enough people in the room at a time to create more energy, to share that space, and to be able to, just have this community that thrives together.
Yeah, I love that because I think that there is motivation with community. Accountability kind of helps with that too. But then, even with my patients, as I'm transitioning them back and everything, I'm always telling them, be open with, if you're in a class with your instructor or if you're doing personal training, what's going on and where you're at, and have them just to be aware, like if it's in the middle of a class or a small group setting like you're doing, that they can come in the smaller the group setting that you have, you can guide and you can notice and say, oh, let's do this modification because of, XYZ, or not even having to call it out, but just knowing that you can go over and give them a modification. So that smaller group personalized situation, I think, is super, super beneficial.
It really is because again, I've done a lot of big groups, and unfortunately, when you're in that big group, there's the risk of someone injuring themselves because they can't have those hands on. If they can get what I call lost in the sauce, right?
Yeah.
Where you're out there and you're trying to kind of talk to the average person in here, and you might have some really high level and some really, and you've got 20, 30, 40 people. And it's really can be an intimidating environment for the people who, again, are new, that maybe have some injury or some risk, things like that, where, and again, the smaller the group, the better. So, or even working one-on-one with a personal trainer, because that way they get the right structure behind. And at the end of the day, their job should be to keep you safe, right? Like the safety is first and foremost, to make sure that alignment and functionality are first, and then everything else comes second. When someone first starts their journey, I always tell them, like, within the first 30 days, you should feel more energy. You should feel that you have more mobility. You should be recovering faster. All these different kind of changes. And then all those other big goals, right? Like, I want to lose 30 pounds by whatever. That's going to happen over time. But we've got to start with this foundation here. And that, how you're feeling, is much more important than this number that you have in your head.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Besides, well, I guess, like, how would you say that you've noticed with the women or even men that you've worked with, how the movement has helped them to navigate like stress, anxiety, career changes, divorce, becoming empty nesters, all of the different changes that we go through in life? How have you seen either with yourself or with like the clients that you have, those changes, how the movement's kind of helped them through that?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through all those things
All
most
right.
recently,
Yeah.
right? Again, I'm pretty much and I don't call it empty nester. So one thing I learned at this, I had something once. So I'm a 25-year-old and a 19-year-old. My 19-year-old is here, but I'm almost what we call a bird launcher, right?
Yes.
So instead of being empty, I feel like I've launched them into the world. They're doing amazing. But it is a big transition, and I'm going to be on my own now. I divorced like 3 years ago, and changing the trajectory of my life so many times. It's definitely helped me manage my stress, my anxiety. If I didn't have this, I don't think I would be sitting here today. There's just no way that I would probably be walking around overly medicated zombie like most people, when it comes to their mental health, right? It's like, take this pill, and I'm not discounting that at all. So I believe there's a place and time for medication, but I believe it's like a band-aid. It's something to help stop the bleeding, but it's not going to fix the problem. So you have to take action on it. And so just this idea that you're in your body, and it helps to take this space to be able to manage those everyday challenges.
Yeah, I think it's the endorphin release. I know for me, and like you had mentioned, us having met through stand-up paddleboarding and DFW surf and everything, there's times when it's crazy to just grind and get a good strength session in. And I enjoy the gym. I've always enjoyed it. Even through like high school, I was working in a local gym, and then college going to our rec center and working out. So I love a good strength training session, but then I hate being on a treadmill. I hate the elliptical. I hate the recumbent bike. And so that's where I find myself navigating to all of these like outdoor recreational sports. And I am a water girl at heart. And so that's where like the stand-up paddleboarding came in. And it was just a way to get the endorphin from movement, but then also through nature and community and everything else. So yeah, I think that helped to navigate, just some difficult times that I was going through, during life and stuff like that. And I still use it that same way. Like either it's been a week, I just need to get strength training in, put my music in and just lift, or I need to get outside and find, movement, whether it's through golf. I need to get back into the stand-up paddleboarding, but anything like that, like you said, more recreational stuff. I think it's people finding, what works for them. It doesn't have to be these strict, some people find it boring strength plans, right?
Yeah, yeah. And again, you don't have to spend a ton of time in the gym. I think that's where, I've seen women especially go wrong. I was at Lifetime for a few years, and some of these ladies would be in there for hours every day, going from class to class to class. They didn't get stronger. They didn't meet any of their goals. They were just trading their time for an activity to do, and it was social for them, so there was that. But they all these other things that they wanted out of their bodies that wasn't being managed, right? And then I had a particular client who I took her on as a one-on-one life coaching client, and we talked about that too, about she was just doing too much. She was spending so much time beating herself up in the gym, running all the time, all these. And I'm like, we need to dial this back and really get down to the foundation, and really the time that you spend, make that time very meaningful and purposeful. So take that 40, 50 minutes in a strength session, and do the work, and then you should still have the energy to go do the other things you want, instead of feeling like, oh, I got to keep training, and you're punishing yourself because you had an extra glass of wine, or all these kinds of things that women tend to do. And I'm like, all right, no reward punishment ever. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just not what we want to do. I'm like, let's look at what you're doing. Let's dial it back, see how we're treating and talking to ourselves, because it comes from there too. And she's made huge progress, huge progress. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw so many clients that, when I talk to them, I'm like, when someone says that you saved their life, like that,
Mhm.
there is just like, just hearing those words, like it's just amazing to hear those kinds of things. And
Yeah.
you think, how could that have possibly happened just by teaching them a few tools, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that's the way it starts, and it gives them, empowers them to be able to manage themselves in a more efficient and very beneficial way in their life.
Yeah. It's a very rewarding career to be in for sure. Just to watch and help people make those changes and build the confidence in themselves mentally and physically, right? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you can't have one without the other. It's mental health, a lot of you get that through physical exercise. There's absolutely the benefits of that, so you're physically moving, your mental clarity comes from being in your body for sure.
Definitely. So I thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a rapid fire around strength training myths. You up for
Okay,
that?
sure.
So basically, kind of just first thing that kind of comes to your mind when you hear people say kind of some of these common myths. So what would be your response to "I'm too old to start strength training"?
Oh, no, you're not ever too old. I have 80-year-old clients and then some. There's a guy, Dr. John. I love this man. And he would quoted Forrest Gump. He'd say, he's like, Alloy's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Nice,
And
nice.
he's doing karate and all this stuff. And like, yeah, no, you're never too old. You're never too heavy. You're never too, tight. Like all the things I've heard people say, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible.
That's a
But
point.
that's why you do yoga, right?
Yep, it is the point. You start with where you're at and then just do what your body's capable of and then keep moving from there for sure, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Age is a number.
Um, how about I'll get bulky?
Yeah, I actually worried about that earlier in my career, because I'm short and I'm stocky, right? And I've got a predisposition for muscle. And I thought, I wonder, do women look at me and think, I don't look like that? Like she's, and I really just take a step back and really get into my body and realize I'm not, right? Like I'm healthy and trim and, um, showing that everybody's body's different, right? And as far as women go, they're not going to get bulky. Like you have to supplement the crap out of your life for that to happen.
Yes.
Like that is never going to happen. And if you start working out and you're like, oh wow, I'm like, well, you're putting on muscle, right? You're putting on muscle, but your muscle is dense and it's going to start burning that fat. And so when we look at it, people are like, is a pound of muscle and a pound of fat the same? I'm like, well, there's still a pound, but this is a pound of muscle. This is a pound of fat. One takes so much more room than the other. So that bulkiness is really just not going to happen. Like, because this lean muscle is lean muscle.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's, I mean, like you said, the amount of training and supplementation that you have to do to get to that point of being bulky.
Yeah.
Most women are not even finding the time to be able to do. I'll just put it that
And
way, right?
they're not
I
going
mean,
to
it
unless
takes
they're,
effort.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
unless they're like in a competition that's what their goal is. Just
Yeah.
the average woman is just not going to bulk up.
Yeah.
It's just not. Yeah, we don't have the predisposition for it. And even men have to take a lot of stuff too to get that bulk.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. How about I'm not athletic?
You don't have to be athletic to work out. There's absolutely nothing about working out that has anything to do with athleticism. And I especially saw that. I see it, of course, all the time in the gym, but I remember seeing it very clearly with the women at the lake and paddleboarding. We drew a lot of different women from all different backgrounds into that space. And I would say that 90% of them were not athletic at all. They didn't grow up in athletics. They didn't do any kind of competition or sports. I remember one woman in particular, they then found pickleball, and she was like, oh my God, now I can actually do a sport. Like, because she had the confidence coming from being paddleboard, like being
Yeah.
able to do this skill set. And it really has nothing to do with athleticism.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and that's what you have the capability of helping people realize about themselves and build into themselves, is that they don't feel like they can do the movements. They don't feel like they can do a sport or an activity, but then with a little bit of coaching and training, building that confidence and then realizing, oh, I can do so much more than I thought that I could when I started.
Yeah, we have a special group of population here in North Texas. We have a really, really large Indian population, and
Mm-hmm.
traditionally they don't work out right in the gym. And I have a probably 75% of my clientele maybe right now is Indian where I'm at, and they come into my space and they have the want to learn. They've never done anything in their life. They didn't do sports. They've never picked up a dumbbell. They have no idea what we're talking about,
Yeah.
and they can quickly learn overnight, right? By just getting into their body, learning these skills. And again, it's just a new skill set. It's not anything to do with, being a sports star.
Yeah. Those are great. Those are great answers, and just I hope motivation for people that have been a little bit hesitant about looking into personal training or strength training or recreational kind of sports and activities and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
If listeners want to learn a little bit more about you, where can they find you, or how can they work with you?
You can find me in so many places. Currently, I'm the director of training at Alloy Personal Training in Southlake. So I am there. The email address is info.southlake at alloypersonaltraining.com. That's a mouthful.
I will
Um,
put it in the show notes for people.
Okay, good, good.
Yep.
I also have my own website. It's Healthy Life Phases, because again, it's all different phases of in our life, right? And that's where I decided my company, my one-on-one. So I've done again one-on-one personal growth, health, and life, and I also have worked with corporate groups. One of my recurring customers has been Chicago Title, because again, very, very busy business, and I go in and do things with them as well. So
That's
again,
right.
it's all kind of the same, right? It's all in the same hub of all the things that we can do, to better our lives. And then of course I have my Instagram, and it's becoming Tina 2026, because again, this was a new year for me, moving forward in my life, and so that's why I renamed my Instagram.
Awesome. All right. I will include all of those in the show notes so people can follow and learn a little bit more about you. I always end each episode with one small move. Do you have like a simple takeaway that listeners should take away from your wealth of knowledge?
um just start. Just
Just
start.
start.
It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It doesn't have to be a Monday or the first of the year or whatever, whatever, whatever. And if you start one day and then you don't do it another few days, just start again and start again and start again until you find something that's going to work for you. And that's really the biggest advice that I can tell you on is don't give up. There's going to be something out there for you. You just got to keep at it, because it's really important to really make sure that you stay in the best possible shape that you can, so that you can continue to move forward in your life, um, with health and wealth in all the different areas of your life.
Definitely. Like we were talking about earlier, it doesn't have to be, what did you say? Small hinges move big doors or something,
Yes.
open big doors or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swing big doors. Small hinges, swing big doors. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just start.
Just
Thank you
start.
so much for coming on, Tina. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I am so honored to be a guest on your podcast.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.